That was Keen and The Way I Feel. Now, we all have memories that we wish we could erase or change, memories that we don't like and cannot let go of. Well, the therapist and the hypnotist, Matt Kendall, looks a lot at whether we can unthink our negative memories. He uses a practice called IEMT, and I am so intrigued to know more about this. I'm really pleased to say that Matt Kendall joins us on the afternoon show. Hello, Matt.
Hello, Joe. How are you doing?
Well, I've already got an email, actually, from someone saying, is it EMDR?
Okay, this is a question which I get asked all the time. No, it's similar, as in the way that it uses eye movement, but basically that's where the similarities actually end. We actually get a lot of EMDR therapists coming on to the IEMT course. IEMT is a more, should we say, a more up-to-date version of EMDR, I suppose. EMDR also has a higher barrier to entry. You need to be a mental health professional to actually do it. IEMT is open to anybody. EMDR is much more about, think about traumatic imagery, think about belief systems. If you want to replace a negative belief system with a positive belief system, I believe, and it's a much longer process. It's about 12 weeks. IEMT works in minutes. Wow. You literally get them. IEMT answers the question, how did you learn to feel this way about that thing? So basically the emotions that you're experiencing in present day, you've learned how to feel that way. So IEMT works in two ways. If you've got PTSD because you know the problem, you work directly on that imagery. If not, what we do is we find what's called the imprint. So say that you're anxious about coming onto here, for example, you'd get that feeling out of 10. You'd ask how familiar, out of basically how well do you know it, and then when was the first time you can remember feeling this way, and it will tend to be something in your childhood. You then hold on to that memory while your eyes are moved in different directions, and this will then cause the imprint to lose. It will go from what we call subjective, so that means you're seeing it like you're there, to an objective perspective. So what happens is you lose the importance and the significance of the memory. So it doesn't remove it, it reprocesses the memory. So you get to see it from who you are today and not who you were.
So there's so many initials, post-traumatic stress. I know I'm patronising, but in case people are wondering one of the instances in which you can use it.
Yes.
So in a way, so you're moving, if someone was sitting in front of you, you would say, right, look at my finger. Is that right?
That's correct.
And say I was saying, okay, I get very this isn't true, by the way, but I get fearful walking across the piazza, coming into this BBC building, knowing I'm going to do a 3.5-hour show every day.
Yes.
So if I came to you with that, what would you tell me what you would do?
So basically I'd be like, well, what's the problem? And you'd be like, well, I feel fearful about this. Okay, so that feeling of fear, out of 10, how strong is it? And you might be 10, or it might be 7, should we say, how strong the feeling is. And when's the first time you can remember feeling this way?
Okay, so I would probably say the first time I walked across that piazza to come and do the show.
Okay, then what we would do is we'd take you back to that memory. Then begin to move your eyes in different ways. I know people can't see this, but basically we go horizontal, then we go to diagonals, and then diagonals. And you'd try and hold on to that memory for as long as you could. What would then happen is you'd lose the imprint and your mind would go to different places.
So it's almost wiping it out or making it fade a little.
It essentially does that, yes. The thing is, you will always know what happened, but you'll see it in a very different way. And so, yeah, we take on memories either passively or subjectively. So it could actually be somebody else who you saw being nervous as opposed to yourself. So a lot of the stuff I do is around sort of aggression, anger, and it's a lot to do with violence, parental violence when you were young. So it's not what's happened to you, it's what you've witnessed. So a lot of people can't work out why they feel a certain way. It's because it's what they've seen, not what's happened directly to them. But they still take it on, passively as themselves.
And would you? I mean, how many visits? Because I can't sit and think a great deal about my emotions as a child. Maybe because I had a really lovely childhood.
Yeah.
But I couldn't instantly go, oh gosh, yes, I remember at 8 being scared about something. It must take a long time to be able to dig that low.
It takes about a minute.
Really?
Yeah. It's really, really fast. Basically,
and they never will have shared it with anyone else.
The thing is, and what happens, what's beautiful about IEMT is that you do not need to share what the emotion is, the memory. All you need to do is you go back and give it a label, so it could be the incident. So I work with a lot of people who have been attacked, either sexually, physically, mentally, and so I work with a lot of men. They do not want to talk about what happened. which is great because you don't need to. All you need to do is get to the memory. You need to tell me the structure of the memory. Is it subjective, like you're there, or objective? How clear and in focus and how vivid it is. And basically, is it a picture? Does it stay still? Is it a movie? Does it actually move when you actually focus it? That's all I need to know. I don't need to know what actually happens. And then basically, the hold on to that, I move their eyes. They then try and get the memory back. And basically, it's not about feeling good. It's about stopping people from feeling bad.
It sounds like you're literally saying, look into the eye of the storm, which is, you know, just look into it.
Yeah.
And that way. And who came out with this? Who was the person who researched this?
Okay, so it came out from a guy called Andrew Austin, who was a hypnotherapist. And what actually happened, I was working in hypnotherapy for a long time. And I came down to visit a friend in Brighton. And he said, do you want to come and do this afternoon workshop about this eye movement thing? And that's what it was. It wasn't a training or anything. It was this thing. And when you're a therapist, you like to learn new skills. So I said, of course. So I went along. There's a little workshop room. There's about 12 of us. There's a guy called Andrew Austin. And he goes, do you have a memory which sticks out, which is negative? And I was like, yes, I do. And so you go, hold that memory. You move my eyes. And it was like, it was like just moving back and seeing the memory as a different person. And I was like, this is going to change how I work.
Wow.
And this is going to, and that was about 11 years ago.
And Andrew Austin came up with it. He did.
He came up, and also Connie Ray Andreas, Steve Andreas and Connie Ray Andreas, I believe, they helped develop it. But he was working in, I believe, neurology. He's a trained nurse, and he was working basically, I don't want to say it verbatim, but basically he was noticing that when neurologists were moving people's eyes, they would tend to deviate because they were looking for tumours and that kind of thing. And he was saying, what happens in this deviation? And they were saying it's just an anomaly, something that happens. An anomaly. Basically, what he realised is that when the eye deviates from the axis, basically when it moves and gives it a blip, it's changing the internal representation of what that memory is. So he started to investigate that. And then basically he came out with this IEMT whole protocol about why people stay stuck. So a lot of people who come to me, they've tried other therapies for years and years. They've tried counselling. They've tried PTSD. The thing is, a lot of this therapy is re-traumatization because they're talking about the thing over and over and over. With IEMT, you don't talk about what actually happened. And so you can just need to know what is that memory, or how, basically, how do you learn how to feel this way? Or if it's this memory when you got attacked or the car crash, whatever it might be, hold it, move the eyes. And then basically you're trying to try and recalibrate the problem until the problem's not there. And
then would you recall this, I mean, throughout the day when needed? Is that a practice you can practice on your own, or can you only practice it with a practitioner?
Basically, you can do it on your own, but it's always better to have an actual practitioner to do it for you, because it's like, you know, you can massage yourself essentially, but it's always better to have somebody else to do it. So when you're a practitioner, you know what to look for and you know what you can hide from in that sense. So we have these patterns of chronicity. So as a practitioner, I'm looking for the negative, and then I work on the negative issues. A lot of therapy and coaching is around positivity, and IEMT is not positive. It only works on what's negative, to release the negative. It's
completely opposite, isn't it?
It's completely different. The way to think about it is that if you get a stone in your shoe, you can walk along and you can force your way through it. You can pretend it's okay. It's painful. IEMT gets you to stop and take the stone out and throw it away. Now, after a while, you can say, how's your foot? And you're like, it's fine. Because the thing is, you don't notice pain when it's not there. So that's what IEMT does. It just removes the pain from things, that's all.
And if anyone is interested in this, plus a lot more like hypnotherapy, you have got an evening coming up, haven't you, on the 7th of August?
I've got 2 events coming up. I have one on the Monday, which is the 7th, I believe. Now, that's in Bristol. I'm doing a talk. I work with a company called Funzing, and I do multiple talks with them. I will be doing more in London. I'm doing a talk, like I say, in Bristol. I'm not... at the Square Club, I believe. It's going. I do talks to about...
I've got one here at the Roebuck.
And then I do one at the Roebuck. That's actually a different talk. That's actually to do with basically like the 6 pillars of happiness. So it's a slightly different approach. I will be mentioning some IEMT there. But
where is the Roebuck?
Dover Street? It's central.
Yeah, okay. So if you Google Roebuck, if you want to find out more about this. The 6 pillars of happiness, I'm just asking you this. Can people be taught to be happy?
Yeah. The thing is, we don't deserve happiness. It's a very kind of stoic approach. you know, we live in a very sort of on-demand, deserving.
I'm going to butt in because I think we are born happy. I do. If you look, I've never given birth, but I look at my friends' kids and they just going boo makes them fall about laughing.
Yeah.
Doing the most ridiculous. You don't have to be a great comedian to make a child just find everything hysterical.
Of course.
And life irons that out, doesn't it?
I agree.
I think we are all born happy, but it's just you know, in the end it's hidden. It gets more and more hidden.
Well, we're living in very strange times. We're living in very sort of comparison times, and social media is not good for this. And so the thing is, you know, I know people who aren't happy if they put up a picture on Instagram and they don't get a certain amount of likes. It ruins their day, which I don't really understand. What I talk about is basically putting in the effort to actually be happy. So you don't just deserve happiness because you want it, or, you know, you get these people who say if you ask the universe, or use the law of attraction and some other crazy things which just, you know, don't work. And so what we do here is we actually look about how you schedule your time, your finances, and how you put in effort, who you actually associate with, and basically are you of service to people. So we look at the different sort of elements. And when you're unhappy, so when I work with a client who says they have low self-esteem, I look at what they're doing in their week, and it's there. It's actually there. So people want to be happy, then they'll be a good person, basically. When you're a good person and when you're doing these different elements, you will become happy. It will never come first.
I had a young girl from, well, she is, her parents are Sri Lankan and she's a Sri Lankan Tamil, and she came in yesterday because she is taking part in Miss England.
Okay.
And she'd been bullied all her life. And she's beautiful, but that's by the by. I mean, I suppose you have to be, you know, to qualify for a beauty pageant. But she said it's very similar to what you're saying. She just thought, I'm going to look into the nucleus of the issue, which is I'm being bullied, so I'm now going to put myself right up there on show. And she's loving it, absolutely loving it, which is probably what you're saying, actually, is you can, if you grab it, deal with it, get on with it, and I suppose the journey's begun. I'm using all these platitudes, but do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I think that if you have a more challenging start to life, you will actually learn how to become happier rather than it just being sort of as a given. And I really think those who sort of invest in their own life and how they use their time, who they spend their time with, it has a massive impact. And where you live, your bedroom, you know, when I work with people with low self-esteem, you can guarantee where they live is a mess.
Yeah. I remember, you must have heard of Alan de Botton.
Yes, of course.
And he says everyone deserves to live with beauty. And he says even if you just pick one flower, it doesn't have to be one you've bought or in your own garden, put it in a vase, open your eyes in the morning. I don't think he did say this, but the equivalent is that you don't, to live with something of beauty just will make you feel better. You're absolutely right. Even if you're living in compromising situation, just put something beautiful in it to make yourself feel better. That's because that's what humans love.
Do you know what? I actually work with a lot of people who live in like shared accommodation, and they say, you know, it's depressing because the kitchen's a mess and the sitting rooms, if they have one, but you are in control of your own room. And if you make your room really nice and a nice place to be, you will feel better. You know, so it's about what you can take control of and what's out of your locus of control. And it really is finding happiness. You don't find happiness. The way I heard a really good quote that happiness is not achieved, happiness is rented, and the rent is due every day.
You give social media a bad time. I mean, I'm embracing it late in life, but I disagree with you. I think, you know, someone will put on Facebook a picture of a sunset and go, oh, end of the day, that's wonderful. And you just think, simple, it costs them nothing to look at that. They didn't need to drive a fast car, live in W1 or anything. And social media, in my head, often brings me back down to the ground with the simple things in life. So it can work in that direction.
I use social